Hey everyone, welcome back to the Atlanta Startup Podcast. My name is William Leonard, your host for today, and I am really excited to be sitting down with one of the Valor founders, Connor Offut, who is the CEO of Aetos. Connor, welcome to the podcast.
Hey William, how you doing? Nice to see you.
Yeah, man. It's really interesting. Atos is crushing it when it comes to building in this space of innovative solutions for green buildings, the built environment, facilities management. And one thing that really stood out to me over a year ago when we met you was Robin, when she first met you, our first internal conversation, it was about you as the CEO. And she said Connor is charismatic, extremely knowledgeable about the space, and is a rock star, venture backable CEO. And I think that just speaks the world of you, especially coming from Robin. But I want to dive into your background, Connor, and your path to becoming CEO of Atos. Let's
Sure.
start there. What's your story, Connor?
First off, that's incredibly humbling. I don't know if I deserve the praise, but I try to live up to it. Robin's incredible. She's been, one of the most amazing board members that you could have ever asked, and she saw it. She comes from industry, right? So BlackBerry, AT&T, managing data centers, right? She immediately understood and saw the value when I presented at stage, and it was amazing to have that instant connection, quite frankly. So yeah, as far as my background, I like to kind of take people through just a bit of a journey here. So I was born in California, but raised overseas in a third world country, primarily in Central Asia, in a country called Kyrgyzstan and then Kazakhstan. So my entire youth was in the backdrop of a country that was former Soviet Union, no infrastructure, a fledgling republic, learning how to do capitalism in Central Asia. And so many things that we take for granted here in the United States, how easy it is to start a company, people that want to work, know how to work, trade free commerce, that didn't exist over there. If you didn't know and have some connections to pull, you couldn't start a business. And so the backdrop there of, seeing what the world is really like, and then being growing up there, but I also had some very early access to the internet. So I remember lugging my desktop computer all the way to the PC cafe to get non-dial-up internet to download, whether that was the latest patch of World of Warcraft or get on forums and learn about computer coding and game engines. And I was obsessed with that as a kid. That was kind of my escape outlet and my connection to the Western world in Central Asia. And I think those are, looking back, very formidable years for me, where I learned both to handle adversity, but also, even at such a young age, grasp the power of technology. I'll never forget such a juxtaposition scene where we were at the border between Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. And this is way, back about 1998 to 2000 area. And it was a guy on a cell phone. And that was when cell phones were just coming out. And I was thinking, here's a guy on a donkey shepherding a bunch of sheep across the border on a cell phone. It's like, wow, we are really in new times. And so, I like to start there because it just shows you how far we've come, quite frankly, in the last 20 years, how fast technology is evolving. I built my first video game when I was 11 years old, and just kind of learning and studying on my own. And I always had a vision for what technology could do for the real world. I'm very much a pragmatist in that sense. And so coming to the United States, I ran a tennis academy for a few years. I dropped out of college. It was, I guess, not my speed. I didn't really get a lot of gratification there. And I was like, I feel like I can Google a lot of the things that I'm being taught in business school. So I wanted to kind of just run at my own speed. I started my own tennis academy, did that successfully here in Atlanta for the better part of 10 years, and then got into green building, the built environment, and tried to understand how does our world work and how do we make it more efficient? How do we tune up these buildings, replace old infrastructure with new infrastructure, but do it in a sustainable way? And I really got obsessed with the built environment. But I also saw how far behind the industry was and that it was ripe for disruption. And that brings us to, desire to found Atos to go and solve that.
Yeah. I didn't know that you were raised in Central Asia, and I think that just even adds to, your story as an entrepreneur in your journey to where you are now. And I find it so fascinating that, when we were diligencing Atos and really trying to understand the business, right? Like Robin on our team has incredible experience with uh, operating facilities and data centers, but the rest of our team, we're not experts on prop tech or facilities management. And there's a lot of education for us
Mm.
regarding the problems in the space. And you did a really great job of showing us the problems, but also we were able to talk with a lot of customers. But for our audience today, let's talk about the building ops and facilities management space and how antiquated and manual the industry is, and why
Yeah.
you are building Atos to be a complete deviation away from this antiquated status quo.
Yeah, it's a great backdrop. So I would say, and I'd like to start by painting the picture that every facility is somewhere on the spectrum. It's not really binary. They're somewhere in the process of digitizing their world, right? And so everybody has a cell phone, right? So nobody is completely off the grid, and yet very few people are, what they would consider fully optimized. So people exist on this sort of gradient, whether you're a manufacturing facility, a class A commercial real estate building, a quick serve restaurant, or any asset where there's physical space and there's equipment to be maintained. You're somewhere in the process of digitizing your operations in order to gain efficiency, right? And so the cool thing that we're seeing here is there's this backdrop of a push to what's called Industry 4.0, and that's a little bit of a catch-all phrase. But for people listening here, what that really means is how do we automate, digitize, and leverage technology in order to better facilitate the best practices that we want to maintain on an ongoing basis for all of our assets. And so when I was starting to really get exposure to this, I was shocked, quite frankly, William. There are major facilities, huge trusted operations that are still running maintenance on pen and paper, where they're logging when was this boiler last maintained on a spreadsheet, not even in Excel, right? Then you have, okay, we're in Excel, we're using some documents, but where is that? Are we getting any kind of data from that? And then you have all the way to what I would consider the holy grail of predictive maintenance, which is I'm getting IoT data on every single sensor. I'm using that to action work. And I can actually holistically look at the entire performance of my assets across multiple different locations and make informed decisions. A lot of companies struggle with actioning that data. So they might get a lot of that data, but it just sits there. You still need to get people to go do things as a result of that data. For example, you might have a device that says your vibration is exceeding the threshold of accepted value for a very expensive piece of equipment like a boiler, a chiller, or a HVAC unit, right? But if that's just sitting there as an alert, you still need to take that information, provision a work order, send somebody to go inspect that machine, do the labor, track that, right? So there's a big gap between just getting that data and actioning on that information. But William, what nobody is doing is bringing that into a visual context. And that's really where Atos is completely differentiated, right? Where we're actually leveraging a visual technology to bring this to the cutting edge. And so what we're really thinking about is, okay, where does all this end up? Forget where we are today for a second. What is the end state that would be the most optimal system? Well, you'd have perfect information on all your data. You'd have a visual representation of what that looks like. You'd be able to access that on the cloud from anywhere in the world. And all that data, all that information would be seamlessly integrated into your business in order to affect real change and get efficiency, right? And that's what we're building today.
It's so funny because, as a VC, and really being on the forefront of innovation and learning about so many different technologies and industries, you get to learn that oftentimes the industries you think would be most tech forward, that have, the highest stakes, like you mentioned, large buildings, large operations, people's lives are on the line, but it's being
Yep.
managed in a completely manual, siloed and paper-based fashion. I just think it's so interesting to see that. But, you and the team are crushing it right now. You've landed clients like Chick-fil-A, Pepsi, Hines, even locally with Portman. I would love
Yep.
to talk about, you know, this customer type as a whole, how you've landed them, and how you are transforming their facilities from day one as being,
Yep.
their provider now.
It's been a privilege, man. What we realized, especially in 2023, is that we need to get really, really good at selling to the enterprise. And the bar and the barrier to entry is very, very high. And so, there's definitely some learning curves there. But today, we're successfully delivering value for all those organizations that you just listed and then more. And it wasn't easy to get there. It took a tremendous amount of hard work. All right. For any entrepreneur looking at this, right, there's a reason that those that are successful, talk about chewing glass and staring into the abyss. It's just a lot of work to get there. One of the things that is interesting about Atos in terms of day one value, um, the immediate thing that we can bring is visibility into what you actually have. So just take a step back for a second and imagine any system of record, SAP, Google Sheets, whatever an organization is used to consolidate and think of it as an inventory of everything that you have at any location. Really important, right? If you want to know, well, gosh, we want to replace all of our pumps. Well, how many pumps do I have? We need to replace all of our electrical boxes. We need to run supply to this location, right? All these business decisions are based on what do we actually have at this location? What is the current state? Well, the problem is, William, over time, people don't keep perfect records. You might install a new piece of equipment and never log that to your platform of record. And so your CFO is not making an informed decision because he doesn't know that that exists. And you'd be shocked at how prevalent this problem is, right? You look at any database today of the assets and the inventory that they manage across their portfolio in, they don't trust the data. They don't trust that what they have on record is a true representation of what's actually there. Well, guess what's the best source of data? Reality, right? We go scan the facility, capture everything that's there. So if there's anything missing, we can find it. We can see from our sort of point of view of anywhere that's connected to the cloud, we can get access to that facility and see, oh, you've got 3 refrigerators on record. In reality, I only see 2. You're actually, over shipping supply to this location because you have a phantom refrigerator in your database. You need to update that, right? And so the immediate value is the consolidation of this true state of what's actually there across the board. And the amazing thing, William, is from there, that's where the real magic starts. From there, you can start to optimize the maintenance of your assets. You can optimize the communication. I can get on a call just like we're doing this interview over Zoom. We can actually go and together look at a facility that's halfway across the world and make informed decisions, plan, strategize, show that to a contractor, show that to a subject matter expert, and save them an entire trip so that they know the right tools to replace that piece of equipment. And you start to have this cascade of value that's derived from that fundamental concept of we're capturing the true state of the world. And it's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, it is. And as you were prefacing, that statement, you mentioned that in 2023, one of the team's biggest learnings was understanding how to sell to the enterprise, right? It's
Yeah.
complicated, it's nuanced. You're dealing with long sales cycles. You have to kind of work your way up the chain sometimes. What was some of the biggest learnings that you had when it comes to finding success selling to an enterprise customer?
Uh, it's a lot of keeping your VCs of, I promise it's about to hit. It's about to hit. Trust me, I promise. So no, full serious though. The support that we've gotten from you guys has been incredible, right? So, but it really does feel like that. The thing about selling to enterprise is you don't have anything until you have it all.
Yeah.
Because a new lead can take 6 to 9 months to materialize into a serious contract. Now, our strategy was, we believe that if they try it, they'll buy it. And so we landed a lot of pilots and early proof of concepts in 2023 in new markets. We had this core conviction that the industrial space would just see tremendous value from Aetos, because the maintenance and management of their equipment is directly related to their EBITDA, production capacity, and downtime operational efficiency of all those assets, right? So we had this core conviction, but we didn't have any industrial leads. And so the new leads that we were nurturing in February, March didn't materialize into deals until October, November, December. And so I guess to any other entrepreneur that's trying to get into the enterprise, just realize you're walking into this canyon of despair where you're hoping and believing that it's going to transact and you're going to get this big prize at the end, but you don't know for 6 to 9 months. So you need to have a spine, you need to have conviction, you need to work incredibly hard and constantly listen to your clients. And what are they telling you? Where is the value, right? Where is something that we can land that's strong enough that it will have the legs to go run it all the way internally within their organization to a transacting event? And also get ready to roll up your sleeves, get your SOC 2, your cybersecurity, get your MSA process in place, make sure you've got a good legal team to evaluate these contracts, right? You don't get these things done without a level of sophistication that sort of the SMB or B2C types of strategies can get away with, right? You need to be buttoned up. You need to have a sophisticated product. You need to have a really good engine behind it in order to get them. But once you're there, it's really worth it. And it's incredible. And you can build these lifelong relationships. And so it's been incredibly rewarding.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great point around having the SOC 2, having lawyers review your contracts,
Yeah.
ensure that it's, if you're a SaaS company, you want to make sure you have a SaaS contract in place and that the verb
Yes.
represents that. That's a huge thing that a lot of investors harp on, and founders do as well, because when you think about your company and fundraising, all of that impacts it. It's a tangential effect at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
uh, really interesting insights, Connor. I think, I wanted to get your perspective about fundraising, right? It's historically a black box for founders, and a lot of our audience are early stage founders, pre-seed, seed, sometimes series A and B, but you successfully raised a few rounds of venture financing now. Curious to hear from your perspective, 2 to 3 insights for increasing the odds of securing venture dollars that you've discovered as CEO of Aetos.
So first off, understand exactly what you need, and don't take more than you need, right? So I think that's something that people say, but when somebody offers you a big deal, you need to be prepared to evaluate that realistically, right? So, hopefully you can get there, yes, but start the conversation from what you need, because they're going to grill you on that anyways. Hey, why do you need this amount of money? And you need to have a really good plan if you're asking for a lot, how you're going to deploy it. A lot of times I see founders that are trying to go bigger than they need to. And really, they just need a little bit more product market fit, a little bit more revenue, a little bit more conviction, to get the round that they really want. And then it'll be at a higher valuation, right? So think about where you're at. Where's your product? Where's your revenue? Where's your opportunity? And then size round based on what you actually need in order to get to the next milestone, right? So that would be my first level of advice. The second is, you can't have skeletons in the closet, man. Like if they'll find them. There's this thing called due diligence where they rip apart every contract. They look at your employment agreements. They look at your cap table. They look at your structure. They understand your clients. And the earlier you are, you have a little bit more grace around a lot of these things, right? I remember when we did our Valor round, Those contracts were not great. We've improved a lot, but you guys saw enough there, transacting events with incredible enterprise clients that there was enough substance there. So, I mean, the best thing that you could do is be truly a valuable company. You got to stand out from the other 99 that are pitching the same venture firms that you are and don't get to a yes. And so the best way to guarantee that you're going to be successful is just run a great company, have a great team, have a great product, have momentum, have defensibility. And if you focus on those things, then they'll come to you and they'll start, you'll be turning people down rather than chasing people for a yes. And so, focus on the things that really matter, execute, and the last thing is, guys, it's no secret, but fix revenue. If you don't have a sales engine that works, that the insides and outs of it, that you can put more money in and grow revenue, you're not focusing on the right things. I think the product is super important, product market fit is super important, but if you don't know how to grow revenue, you're dead in the water. So fix that early and make good hiring decisions around who you bring in to grow that with you, because every investor is going to want to see that you can grow away from founder-led sales. You got to bring in the first 4 or 5 deals yourself. If as a founder, you have to, right? Nobody else is going to do it but you. But after that, you need to show them that, okay, this is not just a founder gimmick. We can actually have somebody else go take a lead and grow it from start to close without you being, in every single conversation. And that's tough to find. So, make sure you screen the right candidates until you find the sales leader or the sales guy that you need to carry the torch from the founder.
Yeah, that's a really great point there on founder-led sales at this next sort of inflection point of growth at the business. You have to hire that right head of sales, and oftentimes we help with that as a VC and a venture
Yeah.
firm, but oftentimes a founder can also do that on their own. So really great insights there, Connor. And as we wrap up the conversation here, you know, Atos is solving problems in a multi-billion dollar vertical, right? And as a company continues to grow, it's so funny. Everyone's talking about AI right now. And what makes a lot of AI companies extremely valuable and differentiated from the 50 other AI companies that are building in the same exact vertical is uniqueness of data that they have. And
Mm.
Atos is just accumulating so much rich, raw data, right? You're scanning the world, you're getting deep, intimate knowledge of facilities. It's not just abstract 2D data. You all
Exactly.
are getting real data points on reality, like you mentioned earlier. So I'm curious to hear, what is your grand vision for Atos, years down the road from now?
It's a great question. Wow, such a good framing of the position that we're in. And I think this is maybe something that's become even more clear to me, especially over the last 6 months, that, oh my gosh, we're actually sitting on a gold mine here. And this is way more valuable than I could have ever predicted. I mean, I knew, my gut was saying that this is going to be valuable, right? If we're training on the real world, we're understanding what maintenance procedure leads to the most optimal performance of the asset and pairing that with the physical representation of all those step-by-step procedures that need to take place, surely that's going to be valuable. But as a matter of fact, I was looking at Carta recently and looking at some statistics. The average seed stage valuation has actually stayed, fairly consistent, but it's skewed entirely by hyperinflated valuations for early stage companies that have exorbitant value of their data. So if you just take those out, we're actually seeing seed stage valuations go down and Series A, especially going down. So just ARR growth, subscription-based revenue is not being valued at the same multiples as it was before, but the mean is still the same because these data plays are just so outsized. I mean, we're looking at 40 to 60 to 80 times revenue in some of these cases if there's really a moat and some real defensibility there. So, I mean, that's a little, VC-esque, but I think what really excites me is this is going to change how people manage and run the world. Right? If you think about our clients, we're looking at the backbone of our GDP, right? Clients like Chevron, clients like Chick-fil-A, clients like Oglethorpe Power, production, Pepsi. We're scanning the production facilities of the world and learning to understand how to optimize them based on this visual data. And if you take that to its end, I really do see a world where Aetos is able to autonomously scan and capture a facility, immediately understand where there are inefficiencies in process, in assets, and then immediately suggest and implement the strategic initiatives to the holy grail of how it ought to be run based on all the accumulated knowledge that we've possessed and that we've trained on, right? And so, I mean, that is, I don't want to get people scared, but that kind of puts a lot of these consulting jobs out of business, doesn't it? In terms of this, we're displacing the consulting labor and turning it into intelligence. And that's pretty exciting. And I think that we're just starting to scratch the surface. And the beautiful thing is, I was thinking about this the other day, William. People would have to pay to go in and collect this, but we're delivering so much value as an operating system of VMMS, where they can immediately see the value of the work order system, the training, the asset data aggregation, that we're able to collect this with our clients and give them results so much faster than they would have before. Where now an operator can just interact with their facility and understand, where's my most inefficient process? Who are my employees that are crushing it? And how do I copy what they're doing across all my portfolios? And we're able to give them that information in a tangible way. And this is the pragmatic application of artificial and generative intelligence. And we're sitting on, I think, one of the most exciting treasure troves of that data that the world has ever seen.
Yeah, I agree. Our team agrees. And that's why we're excited to continue to back you as you go on this journey of building and scaling Aetos to transform the built environment. And Connor, I think that's a great place to wrap. Really appreciate your time today, man.
Thank you, William. It's always great to hang out.